All right, welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be taking you through a Formula Dank. We're going to be covering someone very close to one of the teammates. His name is Henry Sargeant III. He is the uncle of Logan Sargeant, currently the Williams driver. Now, it is no secret it takes a lot of skill to get into Formula One. Jeff, what else does it take to get into Formula One?
Money.
A lot of money. So you're going to need some sponsors. You're going to need some backers. And who better than to have a billionaire for an uncle to help guide you through this whole thing. So we're going to run you through some of the life stories and events of Logan Sargeant's uncle, Henry Sargeant III. And we're going to run it down the line here. Just some fun facts about the guy and some of the recent controversies he's been involved in. So we're going to start with a quick background. He's a graduate of Florida State University. You know, he's a fraternity brother of a former Florida governor. So he's got a lot of ties into his fraternity. And he always gives back to the alma mater every year, like something up to $1 million he's given back in athletic sponsorships and other things through the school. He was a former Marine fighter pilot for, I believe, 10 or 11 years. So this guy is, if you can picture a fighter pilot looking serious kind of guy, that's exactly what he looks like. And he now currently runs airline companies, oil trading companies, refineries under his business conglomerate. He's valued at about $3 billion. Pretty good. You know, and started up this Boca Raton based company, the International Oil Trading Company. So it's been several contracts involved through supplying fuel through the U.S. military into Iraq through Jordan. So there's a bit of controversy. We're going to start with that one right off the bat, because through that connection, he was accused of war profiting in 2008 by overcharging for fuel by just 36 cents, which, you know, doesn't seem like a lot in the long run. But if you're at the pump and you're getting overcharged 36 cents per gallon, it's going to equal up to like, well, nowadays, like $20. So every penny matters. And when you're shipping out thousands and thousands of gallons of oil and fuel, yeah, things are going to be looked at in the spotlight a little bit more. And he's also got a ton of financial benefactors to GOP candidates and Republicans, which just so happened to be in times of crisis for these individuals, whether or not they were in trouble or already under the fire for some other unrelated occurrence. For example, he has provided airplanes and traveling through a bunch of just, I don't want to say sketchy individuals, because these people are actual like state governors and officials and stuff like that. So I'm going to tread carefully here. But
so we have to say this to the listeners and viewers, like, this stuff is still hot. So we're Dylan and I, when we were looking into Logan Sargeant, we just stumbled upon, like, the second search when you search Logan Sargeant is Logan Sargeant Trump, and then you're like, what's this? And it goes like, straight to his uncle. And I know Dylan has. We've just been like kind of down this rabbit hole of how kind of sketchy this dude is. But I want to make it clear that these are allegations, and when we offer our opinions, make sure that we know that they are, or let you guys know that they are our opinions alone. So
but this guy was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
Holy cow.
Oh man, best friends. But like, he was dishing out money left and right to some people that may or may not have been involved in the recent Trump scandals and controversies. We're gonna tread carefully here on a couple of the other topics. Like,
I'll just say,
I don't know.
Quickly, he's a small footnote of the impeachment trial for Donald Trump. Yeah. So he provided travel for Rudy Giuliani, who at the time was a lawyer for Donald Trump, and Lev Parnas, I believe is his name, who is a Soviet-born Floridian who dude, see, this is like cool.
Good luck.
I'm about to get murked, dude. And and he provided travel for them to go to the Ukraine. This is all before the invasion and before the war, to try and take down, allegedly, the CEO of a gas company, so that they can put in a pipeline.
Yeah.
So Jeff Spear getting murdered has led him to this costume right now. It's like, guys, look at me.
Dude,
I'm clearly a Republican.
I'm in disguise. I'm also just in disguise.
Tony Stark is clearly in the room with us now. For all the viewers watching, that is obviously a like for like shot.
Look like a Texas or a Florida Republican?
Yeah, you're Florida man for sure right
now. All right, good. I'm on your side.
So we
Harry.
just wanted to bring light to a couple of these things because not only does Logan Sargeant have, a great family that's always there for them. He's got very close parents, and it will be super fun to see his family show up to 3 races this year, as they're all home races for them. That's great. But unfortunately, we also have to mention his ties with his father and the run-ins that he had with just a little problems with some Venezuelans. Their company may or may not have, well, actually, they definitely did, because he was indicted on charges to pay a $16.6 million fine because they were bribing foreign officials in 3 different countries to basically secure their control over the asphalt and oil into those places. So no big deal, but it's got to be really tough as an individual in Formula One when your dad is being released on bail for $300,000 because he's tied in a bribery corruption the same year that you're making your debut into Formula 3. This man has been nothing but sincere. Logan Sargeant on the track in every single interview he's ever done, just being so focused on what matters to him, and that's racing. That's not with anything with his parents, not with his uncle. He's trying to separate himself entirely because, yes, those are big influences into this individual's life, but let's not forget, these are people too. These are race car drivers with family and friends. And thing about family is you only get one unless you're Vin Diesel, and then anyone you talk to is family. But so we just wanted to highlight how difficult it can be sometimes being a Formula One driver in today's microscope of just focus on every single aspect of your life, and just how we just want to throw that out there that Logan Sargeant has been nothing but a star in his seat. He's been nothing but forthcoming and very nice and genuine to all of his engineers, his team bosses. But like Alex Albon and Max Verstappen, this guy's got some interesting family ties, and it's just so good to see these guys are still living at their best. They're still able to show the show and be the best they can be, which is race car drivers. And it's also cool to mention Logan Sargeant's got a brother who's actually in NASCAR. And at the same time that his brother was racing in NASCAR, around, I think, 2015, he was making so many debuts in NASCAR. He had like 22 starts at one point. So it would have been really cool to see Logan drive alongside his brother, maybe in a category, but unless one of them decides to join Formula One or they both go to NASCAR, I'm not sure we'll see that anytime soon. So
there's the prospect of maybe doing IndyCar together. Logan's come out a few times in the past and said that he likes the way that the system there is run. So that could be a possibility in the future, maybe. But for now, Logan's got a lot to prove, and I mean, he's very talented. So let's keep that in mind too. This is not him just paying his way into F1. Like he's proven himself, and he belongs. Have both. Yeah, and he belongs.
Both money and talent. You got to have money to make it so far, but without the talent.
So fun fact too, we may have talked about this before, but this is just off the subject, off the topic a little bit. Fun fact, I learned that about like all the money that goes into what you have to do in order to even get into F1. I don't know if we've discussed that before, but it's about $11,000 to even register. So the 3 rookie drivers outside of De Vries, because he raced last year, the 3 rookie drivers, or rather Hulkenberg, Sargeant,
Piastri
and
Sargeant.
Piastri, they all paid around $11,000 just to register. And then if you're in F1, you have to pay $2,000 for every point you made the previous season. So in order for Max Verstappen to even get into F1, or to continue in F1 this season,
He's got to
he
drop
had to
a
pay
cool $7 million, like
$1 million just to participate in the sport this season.
Something tells me Max will
crazy.
be okay.
Yeah, but like,
yeah,
holy cow. Anyways,
that's
And
crazy.
I think that just goes to show it's impossible to do this sport without financial backing. So it comes from a rich family member.
Yeah.
For some reason, a bunch of sponsors backing you, or a team saw you and picked you up and decided to pay your way, because none of these guys have jobs outside of this, right? They're just drivers. They've committed their whole lives to it. The money has to come from somewhere else.
I believe some of them are technically sim drivers too. So they have
like streamers, sim drivers, sure, but like that's like they're still driving, like they're still practicing, you know, like whether or not it's online or offline.
And you only get popular doing that for these guys after they're already popular.
Yeah. And Yuki Tsunoda is I would say pretty good, maybe, you know, subpar karaoke artist as well. So
he wants to own a restaurant
and Drive to Survive, and he's a thriving
aficionado rather
chef to be. So I love that. That's so funny. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. We just had to drop that Formula Dank on you guys just to remind you it's sometimes it takes a little bit more than family and money to get into the sport. Sometimes it's a good mix of both. And for some, well, you just got to keep it together and hope for the best. And Logan Sargeant, we wish you the best upon this season. So thank you.
And stay tuned to the end of the episode. And I'm going to dish out more dirty secrets about the son of a bitch.
Jeff's taking down everyone.
I'm want to watch the world burn.
Hard-hitting reporting from Jeff.
Support your small businesses.
All right, we're back. What's up, boys?
Nothing.
Hi.
Nothing. Okay.
JC.
Just doing my thing, being just a podcaster. Chilling.
Well, that's good. That's good. We're gonna bring you some talking points. You can tell that we're really good at it. First one is going to be what's up, Jared? You got
just 0.1 for you. Just helping.
Oh, thank you. 1-0 for me.
That was a side point of Jared. Yeah.
First side pod point of the year.
Wow,
sure, let's do it.
Let's go. I got one
Jared
side
off
pod
to an early lead.
You both get one. How about that?
Deal. I'll take my point.
Let me write that down. All right, side pod points. We're good. Okay. Talking points. What you got for us, Ted?
There's been a lot of discussion, and I think the general tone this year so far is that it's already over. That Red Bull just crowned them champions based off of one race.
I don't know why anyone would think that. It's not like Red Bull's driven away into the sunset in the first race and showed no weak points.
Yeah. I guess my question here is based off of what we saw with Mercedes in the turbo hybrid era, starting in like 2014, I believe, when they started winning every championship. And then the new regulation changes into the ground effect aerodynamics era that we're currently in, that Red Bull seem to be dominating. Is that the norm going forward, that anytime there's a regulation change of some kind, whatever team gets it right at the beginning is going to end up winning? Seems to be with the last two regulation changes.
Yeah.
We've got about 12 years of evidence now with this, of Red Bull dominance with Sebastian Vettel for 4 years in a row. Then we move over to Mercedes with 7 years of constructor championships. Eight.
And then
with 7 driver championships.
Yep.
And now this is year 2 of Red Bull just looking utterly dominant as well. I know, like, throughout history, you've had teams that'll have a good run. but it
Mhm.
seems like it's the gap has grown in more common time.
And the cool thing too is it's all from a technical aspect. Like you can't blame the budget stuff anymore because all the big teams would go beyond the budget of like, say $300 million. Whereas now we're down to what, 145, 135. So you can no longer blame the idea of, or the idea that these teams are just breaking the bank because they all have the same budget now.
I have one complaint about the budgets though, and we're seeing it with Mercedes this year that if they try, like, if Mercedes doesn't get the plan right, they're stuck to a certain budget that they can't then spend to then become competitive. Yes, that's good overall, but like that doesn't give us, in this scenario, it doesn't give us competition for the top. Like
Yeah, but
Mercedes can't catch up to Red Bull as quick as
it
they
weeds out
could
their
have before.
incompetence or their incompetent engineers or designers or even Toto Wolff being lackluster as a principal. So I feel like
You can't just throw money at a problem now. You need to be strategic with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think
will
it's good
say-
overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say I don't think the budget cap has even the playing field yet, and I don't think it will for years to come. I think it had to happen at one point, but these massive teams still have massive facilities that other teams don't have, and it's not like they get those taken away, right? So all of their past spending is still paying dividends for years to come, and then also driver salaries are not a part of that budget cap. So
or
I
their
think it's
marketing. Yeah.
right, and so I think what we're going to see is driver salaries just start growing because that's the one place where you can overspend. And now these teams, it's going to be hard for one of these smaller teams to get a solid drive, the best drivers, which has been the case anyways, because the good drivers want to go to the good teams. But I think it'll just be added to a bit more there because the big three, they've got money to spend and nowhere to spend it. So,
but I think that's really exciting though, because you have teams that are on a new hype train of what can the new cars do. So we may not be so excited for who's going to win the championship per se, but we are excited about Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo and like what the middle of the grid or the middle of the table can do.
Yeah, and it doesn't even seem like we have a midfield and like back runners anymore. There is simply the front and the back. Like top 4, bottom 6. In fact, just this last race in Q1 alone, we saw 5 constructors knocked out, which is unheard of. It's almost always like 2 teams and then a rando. Like Williams, like last year it was kind of like AlphaTauri, both drivers out, and then here or there, a random 5th driver. So it's cool to see that we really still have no clue who is the 5th fastest team. I mean, and it's going to be a lot of teamwork from these guys, unlike years before. Instead of having a number 1 driver and a number 2 driver, that's okay. We need both drivers to do as best they can do, as always, to get the best result. So,
do you guys think we are going to start seeing some larger gaps happening in the midfield? Right now, I think it's hard for everyone to say who's going to be the top contenders, who's going to be at the back. How long do you think it's going to take before we start seeing it kind of shake out of
May?
Right, here's our bottom tier. Here's that midfield.
May 6th. Yeah.
May 16th. May 6th. May 16th. Yeah.
Well, we have every team already talking about how they're going to start bringing upgrades to this next race already. Number 2, let alone the 3rd, 4th, 5th race. I bet by the 6th race, which is typically kind of like the first marking point to see where the teams are in terms of order, we will have a better idea of where the teams are running, because Bahrain isn't really the best track to showcase where the drivers are, but I will say it's a lot better than the next track we're heading to, which is a super narrow, tight, unforgiving street circuit. So there is no room for errors here. But in Bahrain, I mean, yeah, you could push a little wide, go over curb, no big deal. No harm, no foul. But
ask Nico Hulkenberg, you can do it as much as you want, it turns out.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, speaking of rookies, I think it's really cool how Bahrain is typically a track that every Formula 1, 2, and 3 category will race at. So the rookies have a lot of experience at that track. This next track, Saudi Arabia and Jeddah, has only been raced for 2 years now. So it's going to be really interesting to see who we think the best rookie is going to be. We saw a lot of promise last week with 2 weeks ago, excuse me, with Logan Sargeant doing very unexpected, I would say unexpectedly well in Williams.
Yeah.
I don't think we've quite seen where McLaren's at. Both their drivers just had an awful afternoon, and Nick DeVries really just got, pinched with a bad strategy late in the race. So who do you guys think is going to top the rookies this weekend?
I think DeVries will come out.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Nick.
Showcase that. Excellent. Yeah. Attention to detail. I feel like he is so rigidly structured in his day-to-day. Like he's making eggs at like 5 a.m, following that, like the Rock alarm clock, that just like wakes you up and makes you start running like 1,000 laps or something. So.
He's also, I believe, one of the only rookies, if not the only rookie, to kind of lose his temper with the garage. So I think that there's already a precedence of him kind of making a name
little
for himself.
hothead.
Yeah.
Okay. Or
So
he's just carrying on that Yuki Tsunoda legacy, and keeping both sides of the garage alive.
That's just what we need. We need a Dutch,
another hothead.
Tsunoda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The interesting thing with the rookies, I feel like, is that one of them has or I guess two of them have spent time throughout the F1 season with teams, like being reserve drivers. Like Oscar Piastri has been around F1 paddocks on race weekend with Alpine, and Nick DeVries has done it for many years with Mercedes team. Mostly.
Mercedes, Aston, McLaren, yeah.
And he's already had a race under his belt with Williams. So I think there's Nick DeVries is definitely the most experienced out of the rookies. So I would expect that he, being in the car he's in, will probably get decent results. I think Oscar Piastri we don't know about still. I would imagine that the McLarens are going to catch on at some point, but I don't think it'll be for a little bit while. So maybe Nick DeVries with his experience is going to have a better start,
Their car needs a software update or something, man.
I think for this coming race, I would say that I would expect Logan Sargeant and Williams to do the best.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Specifically because the Williams is very fast with kind of top speed and overall, and on this track, I think the Williams is actually going to look like a kind of midfield competitor, as opposed to normally when it might be looking more like a back marker that might get lucky.
And just to point out, this track is one of those tracks where strategy is everything. You are not going to be passing a lot on this track. Unlike in Bahrain, this is kind of like a Saturday track. You set your best time in qualifying, which looks promising for a Williams who can start themselves further up the grid, start in a great place, and then just hang on. Just race all 60 some laps, get to the end, make it happen. You just got to make it to the end in a track like this.
That leads to the next question. Haas being a good qualifier, how long of a DRS train is there going to be behind the Haas as they just clog up the racetrack on Sunday?
That'll be your separation between the top teams and the bottom teams. We'll see it on the track.
Just a Haas in the middle.
Well, it could even be a McLaren now, we saw kind of happen last time. So be interesting to see. Yeah, if there's just a McLaren Haas going wheel to wheel, 30 seconds off the pace, oh man, that'd be fun. But yeah, speaking of this track, 14th. There are some crazy new adjustments and updates they're making, Ted. I gotta say, they are trying to make this place safer.
Yeah,
we saw last year a wicked, awful accident. Mick Schumacher came through turn 20, I think full speed, and just lost the rear end and just slammed his car. And then the whole car had enough force to the point where it slammed the other side of the track into the other wall because it had so much momentum going through. So they are, in response to driver feedback, they are going to move some walls at turn 8, 10, 14, and 20 a little bit out from the actual track. So there's about 3, 4, maybe even some spots 10 feet of extra space.
Probably a good idea.
They're going to put some rumble strips, kind of like how when you're driving on the highway and you kind of veer off your lane, you'll feel that kind of like that sensation.
Feels good on my butt.
Feels good
Jeff
at
loves
65,
photo
but maybe
strips.
not 160 miles an hour. I can only imagine what that must feel, because they have almost no suspension in these cars. The only suspension they have is just to keep the car in place, and then everything else you just feel through your back. So I cannot imagine what it's going to be like. I will say I'm happy they're going to be changing out some of the concrete barriers with some more rubber tires, but there's only so much they can do. It's a street track. It's so narrow and it's so fast. But
have they made any safety considerations to missiles being launched in the vicinity?
they're putting a
planning
glass
on avoiding
dome
those?
over the
Okay.
top of the entire track to
Smart.
basically encompass and keep our world untouched and unfazed from the outside world, so that Formula One can go on forever.
And ignore the world around it. Perfect.
Exactly. But yes, should we mention that last year there was kind of
war
an attack on a nearby oil refinery run by the Aramco facility, the title sponsor to Aston Martin, to the point where during a practice session, there was flames erupt behind the track, to the point where they almost canceled the second or third practice session, but decided it's far enough away.
Are you asking a question if we should talk about that? Because it seems like you just talked about that.
Yeah, we should just move
you gave all
past
the
it. You're right. You're
Seems
right.
like we have all the information now.
Yeah, no, we don't need to talk about it.
Real quick before we move into team drama, here's my one chance to nerd out. So,
let's go.
So, the main difference between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia is actually the type of asphalt that's used, which will improve cars.
The location.
Yeah,
the location, the type of track,
different countries,
different people.
But then asphalt, I think.
So anyway, after that, it's asphalt. Asphalt is different. The asphalt in Bahrain is geared with like sand in mind, with big sandstorms. Which that in the type of asphalt increases tire degradation, which probably led to Red Bull's gigantic win, was the fact that they were able to manage their tire degradation. It's going to be much less in Saudi Arabia, so the cars in theory should end up getting a little closer to Red
Ferrari
Bull.
Has a chance.
I'm saying they have a chance to get closer.
On the podium.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, so quick team drama here. There are rumors about Mercedes that they've given their technical director Mike Elliott an ultimatum, which would be to bring radical improvement to the car, or they will be changing out his role eventually. Which
executed.
That's not the German way. That's not the German way. But yeah, that being said,
Dylan, you said it, man. No one else had you, man. That might be an edit.
What are they going to send him on a voluntary ski trip? Like what are they doing? Anyway, moving on.
So yes, with also talk of James Allison returning as the technical director for Mercedes, that could put Mike Elliott in a hot seat, especially with the chaos that's going on right now. I feel like Lewis Hamilton is coming out saying that the engineers and team needs to do better. Then Mercedes is putting out stuff of like, we're all one team, and then there's discussions about Lewis Hamilton potentially leaving, and then Mercedes saying that he's staying put. It seems like they have a lot of fires right now that they're just trying to like put out, and it's not sitting well with me.
Not feeling good.
Blame driver
feeling good.
And for Mercedes, who's always such a united front and kind of seemingly well-oiled machine, to all of a sudden have this drama. I mean, I guess one thing is it's easy to look that way when you're winning. It's hard to look that way when you're losing. And so cracks in the foundation of this competitive giant are starting to appear a little bit. And I will say, could you imagine having that kind of pressure at your job? You need to fix this incredibly complicated thing that no one can figure out how to fix in 5 weeks, or you're out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, I'd be out of work in 5 weeks if I was given that ultimatum.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The other part of confusion is like Lewis Hamilton's stance of like the car needs to do better, and George Russell's stance. He came out this week saying, talking about how the car will be faster in Saudi Arabia, and he's all optimism. It's like they're literally all over the place. One's, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know why George Russell would think that would be the case. It sounds to me like the PR team said, George, go say
Please
this,
stop.
please.
Yeah,
He goes,
yeah.
Please stop doing what
I'm the
you've
new
been
guy.
doing.
Yeah. The other thing, talking about their plan Bs, Jared, I want you to say this because this was your idea, but about the budget caps with their plan B and what they would used to do in the past. Give us that.
I mean, I think a lot of what we're seeing is like some of these teams with bigger budgets struggling in the budget cap era, because the previous strategy probably build 2 cars at the beginning of the season. Whichever one's the better one, that's the one we work with now. And now what these big teams are doing is they're having to kind of roll the dice with one plan. Obviously, they've got renderings and mock-ups and plenty of data on what it could be like elsewhere, but more or less they're going, all right, here's our plan we're committed to, and we have to commit to it, as opposed to let's just spin up another team to build another car in the meantime. So I think this is the budget cap kind of becoming a great equalizer, and for Mercedes of, hey, here's how us other teams feel. It sucks, doesn't it? It's hard to fix it once when you can only spend so much money on it.
So maybe it's a taste of.
It's so interesting that, like, I mean, you don't just wake up one day as a team and be like, oh my gosh, guys, they cut our budget by $150 million. What do we do? They know this ahead of time. Why could they not have prepared better? It's just the $1 million question right there. So it's comical.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is they've never had to adapt to a bad car, or at least they haven't in a really long time, right? Because they have their contingencies ready to go when they need to. Now they haven't been able to, and they need to plan on the fly, and team hasn't had to do that before, at least not to the same scale that they have to now.
Wouldn't be surprised if next year we saw a completely different version of a Mercedes car, because it seems like they've been trying to build upon last year's car even more with that no side pod philosophy, and maybe even extend the side pods a bit for this year. But I would not be surprised at all if next year we get a car that looks exactly like a mix of Aston and Red Bull, like for like copy, side pods, everything. Because if you're not paying attention to those around you doing a better job, taking notes and understanding what they're doing clearly is better than what you're doing. And if you're not adapting and building upon that, then yes, you need to make some major drastic changes with your organization, with their thought principle of just, guys, there are faster cars out there. Let's look what they're doing, figure out the philosophy behind that, and follow it.
That's
doesn't have to be like for like,
that.
but yeah.
It's hilarious you mentioned that, Dylan, with them taking so long to fix their side pod problems last year. I mean, from the beginning, we saw it as an issue, and then other teams figured it out quicker, like Ferrari, Haas.
What bothers me even more is that last year was a big uncertain, a big question mark with these new regulations. We had no idea that porpoising was even going to happen. And now, after a full year of data collections and experience from the drivers, Mercedes just built the exact same car twice, it seems like, disregarding maybe, of course, they've taken into account porpoising, but they forgot all the other stuff that makes the car fast. And yeah, I'm clearly not degreed up with, physics and things to that nature. I don't know how physics work most of the time. I know how to make a paper airplane, and it's pretty cool, but it always just spirals down into a hole. So like, yeah, you got to change your philosophy. You got to try new things if you want to get new results.
Honestly, it's like they overcorrected, to be perfectly honest, because like last year, it was like they had no straight line speed whatsoever. but on tracks where it was tighter and twistier, they did better. Now they have no downforce and their straight line speed has improved. So it's like they've literally just done the exact opposite that they did last year, I feel like, in terms of setup, and I don't know what they're doing.
Well, gone are the days when you can just like have a car that's only just the number one thing that it is reliable. You need to make, you need to adapt to what other teams are doing, like Dylan said, so that you can actually partake in how fast these cars can actually potentially become.
Is all of this just German stubbornness?
If I had to make a guess, I bet there are two camps in the Mercedes technical world. One saying, no, this plan we have can work once we figure it out. We will be the best once we figure it out. And then another camp that's gaining more and more traction saying, no, we need to cut our losses. We need to scrap it and do a different one because it's not going to work. I suspect that's why we might see heads rolling and technical shakeups within their management structures. One party is going to start losing out to the other party.
And let's not forget, if they drop 2 or 3 places in the constructor standings this year, they are losing
millions of dollars,
millions of dollars in reward money. All of that money they would be paying the lease for all of these facilities that they have running. And if they don't turn things around fast, there could be drastic changes in that company's organization.
Well,
so
we even saw recently that, I mean, I think it was even in Drive to Survive that there were teams trying to poach Toto Wolff away from Mercedes recently. So
sure. Yeah.
If it doesn't work out for him, it's not going to work out for him. So, I mean, that would be
but he
insane,
owns
the idea.
He owns a third of that team. So I don't think he's going.
He's got major stake. Yeah. In that, he's also got stake in Aston Martin too.
Yeah. That's what I feel like it would more be, is like poaching him for his money.
Until recently, Williams.
Yeah.
What if he was just the team boss of whatever one of those teams were doing the best, like Aston Martin does better. He just like takes a green suit on and just, all right, here I am, guys. Fernando, why don't you go ahead and head on out there,
Sorry, Mike Crack, you're gone. All right, so switching from one team that we're not used to drama with to the team that we're used to the most drama with, we're talking Ferrari. So this week, Charles Leclerc called for an emergency meeting with the Ferrari upper level execs, as you will.
The CEO.
I like to think it's like a Ferrari horse projected onto the sky. It's like the bat sign, signal. But it's just the Ferrari.
Yeah. So the president of Ferrari, the company itself, John Elkann, met with Charles Leclerc and Fred Vasseur just to essentially talk out the plan and structure that they have going on to make sure that it will fit what Charles Leclerc's expectations are going forward. With his looming contract expiration after the 2024 season, that gives them this season and next to kind of figure out a plan and to move forward. Meanwhile, it seems like there's somewhat of a rebuild happening with the Ferrari camp. Fred, I don't know if it's down to Fred or not, but there have been key engineers and other top people within the Ferrari team that have been leaving, like Laurent Mekies, who is the race director for Ferrari, who was a Mattia Binotto era director. So it seems like there's changes that are going to be made where Mattia's people are leaving and Fred's people are coming in. Why didn't that happen during the off season though?
Why is that one race in they declared an emergency meeting?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the Ferrari stubbornness right there. If we're talking about Mercedes or German stubbornness, I think Ferrari has more stubborn nature than any team out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's got to be Frederick Vasseur that's giving these guys the boot. It's regime change out with the old and with the new. I would have expected. I agree that I would have expected that before the season instead of one race into the season. Maybe there's just not enough time, or people hadn't shown their real colors yet. Who knows what it is? But
Well, they're
odd that
desperate too,
one
right?
race in,
So
yeah.
if they have guys working on the car, and the guys are like, oh yeah, this is gonna work, they're gonna have to believe them because they need results. They're desperate.
Yeah.
Plus, Fred Vasseur was the team principal of Alfa Romeo until the very last race last season. He has finally got one race of experience down with all of his team members at Ferrari, and maybe now he gets to see how they work under pressure, how they work as, co-workers in a sense. How does everyone vibe?
Not
and
as a team.
If he's noticing that there's still negative energy, holding on grudges from, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 years prior since the last time they won a championship, he's just like, all right, we got to change our mindset. We got to make some changes here. If we want to get back to the top, we'll do whatever it takes. And that starts with you out, you out, you out, you stay, you're fine. You out, just like, I don't know. Yeah. But be really cool to be a fly on the wall at any point inside of a Ferrari, like meeting garage. So yeah.
One of the other potential causes would be Benedetto Vigna, who is the CEO of Ferrari. Apparently is very hard to work with. Big shock. He maintains a lot of control over decision making, which might be why some of these changes have been taking so long. Reports are that Fred Vasseur is unhappy with the way it currently is going, so that could be part of the reason why he wanted to talk to the president of Ferrari, just to get some clear-cut direction as far as where this team is going, because I feel like for both of them, for Fred to come in and kind of look at Ferrari and say there's so much work that has to be done, and for Charles, where he has another season just like last season, at least like that's what's shaping up here, and I don't think he wants to waste time anymore either. So if the two faces of your team are that upset, you kind of got to listen, which is going to be interesting to watch going forward. I don't know.
It's a long season ahead of us, guys. It's been one race, and I feel like we have more data basically rounding out the whole season from one race than ever any year prior. Like it's always been like, wait till like the 6th, 7th, even the 8th race, and then we'll figure it out. But this can be a long one. It's gonna be a long one.
Yep.
Oh man, should we talk about the new circuit that got introduced?
Let's do it.
Exciting.
Another street circuit that might be coming to Formula One in 2024. We're talking about the London Grand Prix. What's up? What's up? Oh wait, what is that? Oh, it's already been. Sorry, it's saying right here, 8 hours later after it was proposed, it's been canceled.
Whoa,
the London race will not go ahead. It is completely unrealistic, and the danger to life is so high beyond a doubt that no child within a 3-kilometer radius will ever be able to sleep and will have permanent hearing damage. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Scratch that.
So
London race is off. That's too bad, but it was proposed.
That Formula One meme accounts weren't the most reliable reporting. That was crazy.
Speaking of safety, I think it was proposed that there was going to be like floating grandstands above the water. So that sounds good.
Propelled down from helicopters. They're just gonna like swing in the sky, just like for
the drivers were gonna use brooms like in Harry Potter.
They're gonna cut out the floor so they just run with their feet the whole time as well, because
Flintstones.
Yeah.
This strikes me as one of those, some tech company or something, or development company in this case, shows what could happen. Look how cool this could be. And then a bunch of mediocre F1 journalist fanboys like ourselves,
I hope everybody
read that and go, oh, it's gonna happen, and then repost and then we have this stupid thing that was never gonna happen. So
I hope everyone that was living in London or is living in London currently, when they saw that news, they responded the same way that the Chicago residents responded with the NASCAR thing of just fury, just like like are you
how
insane?
Does this make sense?
Like I will not be able to get to work for the week.
The race is one day, but they have to close the streets for 2 weeks to set up the track and make sure all the safety precautions are there, to rip out the light posts, to replace the street signs, to take out all the intersections, all the curbs, the fire hydrants, the trees, like all that's got to go. They're not going to just
idea.
replace
what if we
that.
leave that all and just see what happens?
Oh man,
They have to
so
go through
awesome,
like
though.
Trafalgar Square where they have like the guy who's like waving traffic through and like he's just part of the race.
There's like real crosswalks in the middle of the race, you know, flashing lights go on. They got to halt to a stop.
A double-decker
Oh my
bus
God.
just comes in.
That's their racing double-decker
That's the
buses.
safety
This turns
car.
on into like kind of cruising world USA style.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
No,
All right,
it'll
guys,
turn
so
into Homer Simpson's hit and run after a little while. But yeah, oh my God.
Whew. All right, should we talk predictions for Saudi?
Let's get predicting.
Let's get predicting.
Let's do it. Who wants to start?
I
We're
wanna
going
hear
from
Jeff's-
last place in
yeah,
fantasy,
Jeff's
or
first.
we just diving in? Yeah, Jeff, get it.
So are we just canceling out who will win because we know who's gonna win?
No, say who's
Is
gonna
it-
win.
You can
Same.
mention, you can talk about it if you want, you know. if you really
I'll mix it
want.
up and I'll just say Checo. Why not?
Okay.
But
Nice.
still Red
You
Bull.
sound really confident about that.
Nah, I don't care about who wins now, right?
Yeah.
Red
As long as
Bull
it's not
wins.
Max, like that's the
Who wins,
mindset
Red
now.
Bull?
Like,
Who
any
will
surprise
who will
predictions or
struggle?
struggles? Yeah.
Who will struggle? I think that Lance Stroll will have a humble race, and he'll go back to his days of 14th DNF, whatever. Why not? Who will surprise? I think maybe Alonso again surprises and gets a top 5 finish. That'd be cool.
Nice.
Wild card. Let's go with let's go with all 3 rookies finish in in a numerical order. So
Oh,
like
Just
Piastri,
right next to each other.
Sargeant, yeah,
3, yeah.
wherever they are on the grid. It's
18,
fun.
19, and 20. All right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I like
They
it.
will DNF. in order.
DNF.
Yeah. And then fantasy team member in exact position. Let's go with Ocon gets in 9th.
okay. I respect
Nice.
it.
I respect
Cool.
that.
All right, Jared, do you want to go now?
I'd love to go now. All right. I have gone boring with my prediction for win. Max Verstappen. Struggle. I am thinking that Aston Martin is not going to look as good as it did last race. I don't think we'll be seeing them plummet down the order, but I think they will just be just comfortably ahead of the midfield. Not a podium contender like we saw last week. Pleasant surprise will be Ferrari will actually be competing for first place,
Ooh.
but Charles will have to settle for second. My wild card is that there will be no DNFs.
Wow.
The drivers
That
are going
is-
to be very well behaved.
Oh,
on a very
wow.
dangerous
Dude,
track.
I will give you a
We
sloppy
didn't
wet
have a
kiss if
single
they-
race last
you're
year
right.
without a single DNF. So,
A
yeah. All
street
right.
circuit like this one.
Yeah, I know it's a wild one. That's why they call it the wild card.
fast
That's
streets.
the point of it.
Yep.
And then my team prediction, I think of my team, Lando Norris will be finishing in 13th place.
Nice. Nice.
Man,
Good for
a little
McLaren.
better. Little
Yeah,
better.
it'll be like huge progress
Uh,
for McLaren.
Yeah.
He's like crossing the line. He's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Let's go.
He's got like a British flag driving in 13th place out of his car. Like, come on, baby, let's
Just
go.
those
The podium's
celebratory
already
donuts.
done.
He's thanking everybody on the radio. You guys, we did it.
He
Will,
announces
happy
his
birthday to
retirement
your
from the
mom.
sport,
Happy
you know?
birthday.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan, you want to go?
Sure. I also think Sergio Perez is going to surprise us with a
Ooh.
win this time around.
Ooh, 2 for him.
I think as a team, Mercedes is going to struggle here.
Mm.
I don't think this is a great track for their suits because Mercedes has always kind of had the philosophy of let's design a car with no drag in front of us. Let's design a car being in first and second place because that's kind of always where they've had their mindset of when they were winning constructors championships is that they're going to run fine. But I swear, if they get stuck in a DRS train, they might just get stuck. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm thinking. And then a big surprise, I'm going to say either I'll just say McLaren will have a bigger surprise. I think the last race was not representative of their actual pace. Both their drivers DNF due to either technical or mechanical problems. So to see them actually run their best would be very fun. I think they'll actually be the fifth best team, but that's because I made my prediction that earlier in the year, and I'm sticking with it. That's right.
Good on you,
start
Dylan.
showing
Sticking
up.
with it.
We did not flip flop immediately like myself.
Wild card. I'm picking Logan Sargeant to get his first points in Formula One.
Oh,
This
second
upcoming
race
Sunday,
That'd be sweet.
second race. I just think a track like this, you don't really have to worry about passing. Once you're in a good strategy, which Williams has proven that they can do, they can easily sneak in a 10th place, maybe even a 9th, probably a 10th. And for a fantasy, I'm going to pick Lewis Hamilton in 7th position.
That's brutal.
Which means he's going to be behind his teammates. So, yeah, I just think Russell's the better driver for this car currently. And I still think Fernando is going to be in the mix with the top 6, pushing someone out. And I think it's going to be Lewis this time around. So I'm sticking with it.
And that's the
rough.
way it is.
And that's the way it is.
All right. I'm agreeing with Jared about Max Verstappen winning. So we're all uniform on Red Bull winning. Who's going to struggle? I think it will be McLaren still. I think we're not done seeing their struggles. Who's going to do well? I agree with Dylan on this one. I think Williams will do well. I was going to say that a Williams driver will score points this weekend, but I'm going to piggyback and say it'll be Logan Sargeant. My wild card is that there will be 5 DNFs. None of them will be the rookie drivers. And 2 of them will be Aston Martin drivers after a collision between the 2 of them.
Wow. This is like a Dylan McCarthy level.
That's like a 3-part
question.
So 5 people can DNF, but if both the Astons don't DNF, your wild card's done. But
exactly. Or if one of the rookies DNFs.
Or if one of the rookies DNFs, or one rookie, one okay.
Well, I love how reckless we're getting with these now that they don't count for points.
I know.
That's the best part. Anything goes.
They were pretty reckless last year.
Yeah, true. Yeah. One of my last year was a driver falls off a boat. So
you're like,
and that didn't even happen.
You're like, okay, a camera's gonna pan to Lando Norris, and he's gonna be on a DJ table, and then he's gonna be with Shaquille O'Neal in the back room of a club. It's like, that's pretty fucking wild, dude. I don't know if that's gonna happen race day.
I don't think they'll show that on camera, Jared.
You can try.
We can try, yeah. Then my fantasy team, I'm going to predict that Carlos Sainz will finish in P5.
Very cool.
P5.
Wow.
So
that means an Aston might sneak in the mix.
No, they're going to both DNF.
Pushing.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
Are you listening, Dylan?
Big week for Mercedes then.
That just means at least 4 drivers are ahead of them, and first 2 are obviously Red Bull. So the second.
Ted, is it obviously that Stroll's going to take out Alonso, or is Alonso going to try and? Is it going to be a situation like a pit situation, and Alonso's going to try and pass Stroll and hit him?
Here's my thing. So I think that Jared is right that like they won't quite be as like good as they were last week. Like I think that there'll be like some coming down to earth moment a little bit this weekend.
Like a crash, like a double DNF.
Well, yes, but like before that, I like just think on pace they're not going to be. Yeah, they're not going to be there. So because they've had 2 weeks now of hearing how great they are and that they're the second best team and all of that, Lance is going to be like, well, now I need to go and prove that I'm, the main driver at Aston Martin, and then Fernando is not going to back down from him from what Lance is trying to do. And I do think that it will be something that Lance causes, but ultimately I think it's because quick hubris from the
the problem is Lance is going to have almost 2 fully healed wrists going into this next race. Exactly. He is not going to be where he should. He's not going to be driving the way he wants to. He's going to have both hands on the wheel at all times. So I can just imagine nothing but catastrophe now. Yeah. So when all of the stars don't align, Stroll has a great day, which maybe that's just a reoccurring trend for him. But
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
seem to shine under bad circumstances. Like crazy
Seriously.
rain,
Yeah,
all
like the
the cars
worst
around him crashing, and
conditions.
he just looks amazing in those scenarios.
Seriously, remember in Japan he passed like 10 people before the first corner going into
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
corner
that was
one. That
crazy.
was
Yeah.
insane.
That was
But yeah,
insane.
going back to Aston Martin, or at least last year when Esteban Ocon was racing against Fernando Alonso, that was a tumultuous battle that almost ended in multiple crashes. I would not be surprised the least to see Stroll and Fernando going neck to neck because they're in the exact same car and they're just going to be passing back and forth into turn one the entire time because that's like the only overtaking place here. So wouldn't be surprised if we got another taste of that this Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Look out for it. But you heard it here first.
You Jeddah, look out.
Whoa.
See what I did there?
Our puns are getting better too.